concept of authentication. So here, if you see or remember from the last session, we had a login API which we already integrated, kind of, where the user logs into the system and user will get a token. We call it as JWT or JSON Web Token. This token is a alphanumeric string which identifies the user. So this is the token that we have. This token contains the information about the user, not the sensitive information, but some basic information. Let's see what information does it contain. To check it, we can go to its official website, which is jwt.io. And here I can decode this token. On the left, I will just insert the token, and on the right, it will show me the decoded data that we have from the token. So where should I paste? Here. So here when I paste it, it says this is the data of the user. This is the ID of the user, a unique user ID, and this is the email of the user. This data is encoded at the time of generating the token. So the data that we store in the token is not very sensitive, some general information, because anybody can see this info by just decoding the token. The purpose of generating this token was to pass it in the further APIs where we were supposed to access some resources, for example, getting the list of the product. So here we had to pass it in the header with the key called as authorization. If we don't pass the key, this is not going to give us the response. The APIs are designed in such a way to prevent the unauthorized access. Now, if I want the access, I have to pass the authorization header and I have to pass a valid token. This is an older token. Every token has its own validity. You can see the validity here in the expiry field. There is a timestamp which says when is the token supposed to expire. The expiry of the token completely depends upon the token generation. We can set 1 hour, 2 hour, 1 day, or even a month and year. It is up to us. So this token, I believe, is supposed to expire on 2nd September, that is today, 10:35. So let's see, I believe this token must be valid. So if I hit it with the older set of token, I'm still getting an error because the token might have got expired. This time may have passed now. Okay, so let me put a new token that I have generated here, which I copied, and now I will see that I am receiving the responses properly. Okay, this sounds perfect. Now going back to the code, this is a simple response that we have received. Now in order to consume this response, we have to first write the code. We have to write the code in our auth.ts file. This is exactly where we are calling the login API. Okay, so I know that there is a key called success here. So if I get response.data.success here from the API response, then what am I going to do? I will just return the response.data from this function. This function is login user, which is passing the username and password or email and password and checking whether the logged in is successful or not. So this is what we are going to do. Now, this is the successful login. What if the login fails? What if the API gives the error? Let's throw the error here. Let's just simply throw the error. I will say throw new error and I will put error.message. And what does it say? It says error is of type unknown. So remember unknown, we don't know what is the type of the error here because error can be anything. We cannot define error. Errors are of hundreds type. So here, let's try to solve it using a way. It is not allowing us to access the message property. So let's try a thing which I do not recommend, but if I put any, does it make any change? So it does not. It gives an error here. Unexpected any, specify a different type. So it is not allowing us to do this because we don't know the type of the error we are going to receive. So here, let's not throw the error message. Let's throw the whole error because we don't know what is the type of the error. So I'm just gonna throw the error. Simple. So we threw the error. It is when the API fails, which could be because of any reason. But what if the username passwords are incorrect? In that case, let's see what happens. Or if there is something else, if we do not receive a success as true here, Then we have to handle it in the else part. So can we throw a new error here? Let's give it a try. I will try to throw a new error, which is allowed. And here I have the response dot data. From here, let's try to access the message, if the message exists or not. Response dot data has a key called message. So this message will be thrown. If the message key is not available, then let's put a generic message like something, no, not something went wrong. Login failed. Please try again. With valid credentials. Some random message is what I'm throwing here. So this is how I have written a login user function. Now this login user function is supposed to be called on the login page. If you remember, we had a form. Let me rerun the project here and have a look at the output once again. And I think my backend may not be running at this time. Oh, it is running. Okay. So let's go to browser. Okay, I have my home page, but I am supposed to go to login page because this is what we have designed. Let's see what do we get in the API here. So this is my email and 12345 is the password that I've kept. So let's see the API gone. Oh, what happened? My form got reloaded. So we have to prevent it first to see the API calls. I think we did it yesterday, but we forgot to save the file. I think that is the reason. Okay, let's do a prevent default. And okay, what we have to do one more step here before seeing the API. So we have the API in the auth.ts, but we have to call the API here in the handle submit of our form. So let's call the API. I have exported here, so I have to import the login user API right here. So let's import it from our services auth folder. So I'm gonna say import login user from so and so file and folder, and then I will simply call this login user here. Login user, and I have to pass two things, an email and a password. So I'm just gonna say email and password are the two things that I'll pass. Of course, we have to handle a few things here because this is an asynchronous function, but at least let's see whether the API gets called and then we will see again. So now I'll try to log in again. And here I see the API being called. And when the API gets called here, I get a logged in successfully message and there is this token coming up. That means we have successfully integrated the API. Now what's the next step? In the next step, please pay complete attention at this point. In the next step, I have to save this token in such a way that this token will be passed to all the other API in the header. That is first point. Second, this token is a time-based token, not a session-based token. What does this mean? It means when I have logged in successfully and if this token is valid for 24 hours, for example, then even if I close the website and go back to the website within 24 hours, I will not be asked to log in again. It should not ask me to log in because I have already logged in. You see, all typical website works the same way. Gmail, YouTube, or Amazon, Flipkart, Instagram, anything. Once you log in, they have a specific window. Unless the window expires, it doesn't matter how many times you close and open it, you will not be asked to log in again. It's a common one. So these are the two things that we have to take care. First, storing the token so that it has to be passed every time. Second, this must not be deleted. Now the question comes, where should I store the token? So it should not be deleted even if I close the tab. We will store it into local storage because local storage does not have an expiry. It doesn't get deleted unless you do it yourself. So I have to store it into local storage. So I will get this token here. I have to store it into something called as response maybe. This is an async method. So I will handle it like this. And of course, I will wrap it into try catch because this method also throws the error. All right. Fine. We will let this error be as is for some time. I have got a response, and we know response looks something like this. This is my response. And response.data is what it looks like. And I want the token from it. So I will take out the token and I will store it. Now to store it, we will take the help of Redux. We will store it at both the places. Maybe we will need it later. So we will put it in the Redux. We don't have Redux right now. So we have to set up Redux. So let's see. Our primary purpose in this project is to learn the setup of the project completely. So that is what we are doing. And here I'm going to create a new folder. Let's call it as Redux maybe. In the Redux, let's create a file called store.js is the extension we used earlier, but this time we are writing TypeScript, so we are going to use ts here. So this is what we will do. Store.ts is the file we will create. Now, we know how to create it, right? We have to import a method called as configure store from Redux toolkit. And then we simply call this method configure store, which takes so many options, but this is our store, right? And I will export this store also because we need it later. If you remember, store consists of nothing but the reducers. So I will write reducer. And here we give key value pair of the reducer. So we don't have a reducer, or in other words, yeah, we have to create reducers, right? So we will now create reducers here. And to create the reducer, we will have to create nothing but a slice. Remember, action and the reducers combination is a slice. So let's create a slice. And this time I will give it as a name auth because it's a auth slice, and we will add more reducers here also. So to create slices, I will create a new folder probably inside Redux called as slices. And in here, I will create another file, maybe call it as authslice.ts. Every file will be a ts or tsx. And here I'll create a slice. The method is create slice from Redux toolkit to create a slice. And I will create a slice just like this. And we will export certain things from here in some time. But here, create slice takes certain options, certain parameters here, the configuration object. First, remember, it takes three things. It takes name, initial state, and reducers, these three things. So let's pass them. Name, initial state, and reducers. We have to configure these three things here now. Okay, so coming back, we have to create name, initial state, and reducer, three things. First, let's give it a name which is unique to this slice, which will be auth for here. Now next, I have to set up an initial state. Initial state is an object which takes the default value. So I will write init state as an object with some default value, and I will associate it here with init state. Now this is a user related data. So what are the values that I can take here? First, I have to define its shape. Remember, what keys do I want? Let's first see. I want a token. There will be a token here. And let's use another thing called as is authenticated. Will be a Boolean value. So by default, I will set it to false. These are the two things I need inside my reducer data right now. We can add it later. If you want more things, name, email, you can keep adding it. It's not a big deal, but at least these are required. Okay. So we are writing TypeScript. We should not leave it as is. We must define the shape of the object. So interface is what we will use. So I will write interface and the name of the interface, that will be my auth state. And here I have to give the shape. Shape meaning keys and their data type. So first key, token. What will be the type of token? It will be of type string. Second is authenticated. What will be its type? It will be of type boolean. Now while writing the initial state, I will associate auth state with it. Benefit, it will not allow me any extra value now. It will throw me an error saying this is not allowed. Name does not exist. And even if I change the data type, it will still give me the error. If I change it to a string, it will give me error. So we are type safe here. So I have created an interface, associated it with the initial state, and then given the initial state here. By declaring the shape, now VS Code will show us the suggestion when we will run some of the methods on it. Okay, going forward. Reducers are nothing but the functions, right? Where you write your function and then they gets called as an actions. So let's see how are we going to do that. So what action am I talking about? When I go to login, I will have to store it into Redux. So once I am logged in, let's create an action. Let's give it a name as set credentials. This is our method. Method is just a function. We know this already. Now, here, one is set credential. When the user will log in, we will call this method. Another will be remove credentials, or what I will call is logout. So this will be another method, right? And you remember each action takes two things. It takes a state and it takes an action. Always two things in the same sequence, state and action, right? Now state is of type what? Or what is the error? First, let's see. State is defined but never used. Okay, we will use it now. And action is also defined but it's never used. Okay, no worries. So let's see. So what I'm going to do here is my state has a token. And when somebody logs in, let's call it as login. It is better, easy to understand. This is a login action. And when somebody does a login, I want to save the token of the user here. Okay, let's save it. State dot token is equal to the token that we will get. Action is an object containing two things, a type and a payload. So this is what we will do now. Something like this. So our action is an object which contains types and payload will have the token. So from action, I need my token. So here I will write action dot payload dot token. This is what I'm gonna write. Okay, fine. Now here, action dot payload is fixed. We will always have payload. But what will be the type of payload? We don't know. Meaning payload can change in all the type. Type will always be a string, but payload shape can change. It is possible we pass something like this. This can be another payload. So here we have token. Here we have username. And we can have some other thing also. We can also have direct string into payload. So payload shape is not fixed. We have to inform Redux what type of data are we passing here in payload. And to inform it, we have to pass the type of action. The type of action is nothing but called as payload action. Payload action is a type. Remember type? Just like interface. So it is a type. The type we get from the Redux toolkit itself. And what is its type that you have to put here. So my payload is an object which contains a token key of string type. So here I will say it will be an object which will have token key of string type. So now when you write payload dot, you will get a suggestion of token, because now your VS Code and Redux knows what key and value pairs are you going to pass inside your action. So, okay, I have updated my token here. Once the token is set, the user is authenticated. So I will set is authenticated to true, state dot is authenticated to true. And also let's do one last thing here. I have stored the token into Redux. Plus let's also store it permanently inside local storage. So last I will store it into local storage. I hope everybody knows how to store data into local storage. So I have stored my token from payload into local storage. And this is what I was supposed to do. Not here, here. Store the token into local storage in Redux store. So that is something we did. Now logout is something we will write later. It is okay. So we will leave it as is, or I can write it quickly. When somebody logs in, the token has to be removed. Is authenticated is supposed to be set to false, and local storage must be clear. The opposite of what we did in the login. So here I don't need an action, so it's okay. Action I can ignore. I only need state, because I just have to delete the data, so no worries what comes in the action. So these are my reducers, and this is how I have created a slice. Now remember, slice exports two things always, a reducer and an action. So let's export default auth slice dot reducer. Where will the reducer go? The reducer will go to action. Auth reducer. I have to import it. This is where I'll get my reducer, and I will attach it here. So my store gets completed. That's first thing. Second, the action. I need the action here. So I will have to pass it in the named export as auth slice dot actions. What are the action? Two actions, login action and logout action. So now I have exported two actions, and I have my store. Now I just have a store right now, but my store does not connect to my application. Okay, so let's connect this store here, and let's see how do we do that. So where do we connect store? We connect store always on the app.tsx, the topmost level, so that it gets supplied everywhere. So let's provide it. To connect it, we need something called as a provider. Remember the provider consumer concept, similar provider from React Redux. So there is something called as a provider. And let's wrap everything inside the provider. This provider takes a prop called as a store. And I need store. So store must be imported. Import store from, not from Redux toolkit, from where? From store.ts export consistor. Okay, I have exported it. So I need export store from my store file. This is where I want the store from, and this is store shall be applied here. So my tree has the access to Redux store now, right? Yep, to the root component is what we provide always. So now the data from Redux must be accessible everywhere. Fine. Now the third thing, this setup is lengthy first, but this is a one-time setup. We don't have to do it every time now. We will just use action, action, and action everywhere. So going back to my slice here, I have login and logout action, and login action is supposed to set the data. So I'll go to my login page and try to call this action here. To call the action, that means I have to import the action, right? So first let's import login from my slice to login the user. We will use this hook to dispatch the action. So whenever I have to call it, I have to dispatch the login action, and login takes object which takes token. So let me put it here. Login takes an object which takes a token. And where will be the token coming from? Response dot token. So this is what we will get it from response. The login user is going to give us the response.data, and that has the token. So this is where I will use the token from. Okay. And now when I log in, the token must be set into the local storage, as well as the token must be set into the Redux also. Let's see first. I can go to application tab to see what is there in my local storage. So right now you can see it's empty. There is no key value pair. Let's log in now using our credentials. And now if the successful login is done, I see a token here. Do you see it? So my token gets stored into local storage, plus the token gets stored into Redux also. Now we have successfully logged in. Now what happens after a user is logged in successfully? In any typical application, whenever user logs in, it automatically redirects the user to the home page. True. We also have to do this. We have to take the user to the home page. So in my login page, this is where I know, after storing the data, I know that the user is logged in successfully. So how do I take the user? Where if we want to redirect the user without the click, then we will use navigate to the home page. And what is the URL of our home page? Let's see. So our home page has /URL. So we have to redirect user here. So I'm just gonna say slash. This is our work with login. Of course, I haven't handled the error. You can set the error here if there is any error dot message, and then the error will appear, and then you can clear the error every time when the user logs in, and then we can work on it. So you see request failed with status 400 because my password was incorrect this time. I've given a wrong password. So I see an error here. You can work with the message to get a proper message. But let me correct the password. And when I do a sign in, I get redirected to the home page. So this is the first authentication part that we have done with the project. And you can use the same way to work with all the other projects available. Now, second step is the home page. On the home page, I want to show a layout. The home page, checkout page, or any other page, if you see, have a header, a content, and a footer, right? So we need the header, content, and footer. We don't have these things now, so we have to create it into components folder. Header, footer, and then the dynamic part which keeps on changing every time. So first of all, let's talk about header. So what do we want in header? Let me create a header component first. Header. The header must have a ULLI. And what am I going to do in ULLI? I'll do two things. First, I will show the name of my store here. On the left, we show the name, right? My store or Amazon, Flipkart, something. And on the right, we give the home and the cart and the other links. So we are keeping things very basic in terms of UI. So I'll just put things here to show you that LI can have a link to an anchor link which says home. It can have a link to the cart page. It can also have a link to checkout. We don't need checkout, it's okay. So we are cart, and then we can say a logout or something like that. So we can put multiple links here. And let's see how the header looks like. So I will call it in the app temporary. I will of course remove it, but temporary, if I put home, cart, and logout comes here, though I don't have a item. So these links will be clickable. on the right and things will be on the left. So as usual, I have a design for this. I will replace the HTML with the UI. It's the same UI with the classes, so it looks good. Let's see, we have given it as a gray background, text, etc., etc., the colors and the alignment. So this is how my page looks, header looks like. Looks very fine, right? Now, I don't need a checkout here, so I'm just gonna change it to logout. Okay, and logout is something we will look at it later. So we have the links, perfect. Now, we don't use anchors here, right? If you remember, we use the links. But to use links, first we have to create our own layout. So I will create a layout. Remember, we associate layout with different pages. So we have to create a layout. Let's create a layout here. So I'm gonna go to components and I'm just gonna create a new file called as layout. And I'm just gonna call layout here. I mean, create a layout. And layout says first I'm gonna call my header. Then I'm gonna put my dynamic content here. And now I'll go to my app where we are supposed to register the link. First page login doesn't need a header and a footer. It should be a simple login. Rest, home, card, checkout, and order confirmation will need a login. So header, login, or I will say header and footer. So here I will create another item, which I will say my element. I'm not gonna give it any path. I'm just giving an element. An element is like a layout. And it has something called as a children, and all these items which are supposed to follow the layout should go as a children of the layout. Okay. Oh, I have two headers now because one is hard coded here, so I'm just going to remove line number 48 and going back to the browser. And now I have a header, I have a footer, and I have the content. Of course, footer is not on the end of the screen because we don't have content right now, but it's going to come in some time. We will add the content here. The home page that we have designed is for showing the list of the products. So we will call the API show the list. So that time we will have a working or a lengthy page. So this header or footer will of course by default be shifted downside. So now next, home page is what we have to keep. Fine. Now home page is supposed to have the list of the products. So how do I get the list of the products now? I have to call an API to get the product. Let's see. Let's call a product API product list. So we already have a home page, and in the home page we didn't add anything. So here let's first decide what all are we going to create. So my API, how it works, we have designed a searchable API. What does this mean? It means, have a look how it works. If I just ask for the list of products, first I have to log in again. My token got expired. Let's log in. Okay, so if I just call the items, it says total there are 98 items available, right? And it has given us some default 4 5 items, I think. But if I want specific item to search, if I want to search for some item, then I can add a search key in the URL and say I want to search for phone. Then I will only get phones where they have phone somewhere in their URLs. phone in their name or something. The API may not be working very well. I will fix the backend later, but this is how it works. Also, it has another parameter called as page size, where I can say how many items do I want and how many numbers do I want. What is the page number? Where I'll pass the page number and a page size and a search box. So these are the configuration that the API take. Now, unfortunately, this is not fully functional with page number, but I'll fix it. So this is the concept of pagination. Now the API is not fully functional with pagination, but it's okay. We will create minor things on the UI for now. What I'm thinking to create here is I will create an input box where user can search for something. Search any product. So user can type anything. And then I am thinking to give it a drop down with page number. Items on page, sorry, not page number. How many items do you want on a page? 10, 20, 25, something like this. So you can say I want to search for mobiles and I want to see 20 items on a page right now or 10 items on the page right now. And below this, we will see the product card here. So did you understood the typical layout I'm trying to build here? That how it is going to work? This is what we will do at minimum. And then we will supply the data into the API so that API gets us the fresh set of data in every change and user will see a fresh updated list of anything. So if that is clear, this is our next implementation. But again, I will try to copy the UI that I have predefined. This is something I defined already.